What's going on, everyone? Hopefully your portfolio is enjoying today's new all-time highs, but even if it's not, that's okay, because you're going to find today's video very interesting as Ethereum is moving up in a truly historic way. On top of that, IPO stocks are going insane. PPI data releases tomorrow. And like I said, we're at all-time highs, so life is good. But today's video is a great one. Stick with us.
In the past 24 hours, $116 billion has been added to the crypto market cap. Ethereum is obviously one of the bigger standouts here. We can see today Ethereum was up 2%, but Mike, just look at that uptrend on the daily chart. From April lows, Ethereum has essentially, at least from the low to where we got at the highs today, it ran up around 242%. It's just under its all-time high too. If we go out to like a weekly chart, we can see the all-time high on Ethereum peaked out back in November of 2021. So this would be a huge level for Ethereum to break past. And Mike, we've been seeing so many Ethereum stocks go crazy in the short term, like ETHA, ETHU, and some of these even have big money trades on them, like ETHA, where the big money trader originally got in with $27 million, but was still holding. And my gosh, these uptrends are crazy. So whenever I'm thinking about this, I know a lot of people are out here wondering, what's next, right?
Yeah, so we know Ethereum has been running like a madman over the past few months, and things are really starting to get serious now because it is approaching its previous all-time high from November of 2021. And a breakout past this level would take things to a whole new level. And today, Tom Lee, one of the hottest names in finance over the past few years, said that we have stated multiple times that we believe Ethereum is the biggest macro trade over the next 10 to 15 years, and he noted that the majority of Wall Street crypto projects and stablecoins are being built on Ethereum infrastructure. So needless to say, demand for Ethereum is going crazy. And when we look at this on a, more like on a closer level with like the real numbers, we can see that spot Ethereum ETFs saw a record $1 billion in net inflows on Monday this week, which was significantly more than Bitcoin ETFs, which only saw net inflows of 178 million. And since May, these ETH funds have seen more than $8 billion in net inflows. And then on top of that, ticker symbol ETHA brought in $640 million yesterday, which is the most on record. And there's just a lot of bullishness right here. What I personally like to pay attention to is the second and third order effects of this event, because that's going to have a big influence on what happens next, like you brought up, Tom. And it's also necessary to be conscious of if you're trying to actually capitalize off something in the market. One thing that is very interesting and that comes from this giant uptrend is that Ethereum treasury companies are basically stacking up a lot of money on the sidelines right now to be deployed in to buy even more Ethereum. As all of this demand for Ethereum happens and as prices explode and more money gets pumped into hot tickers like BMNR, SBET, and a bunch of others, it causes those companies to, buy even more Ethereum, which fuels the price even higher. Right now, these Ethereum treasury companies are getting ready to buy around $27 billion in Ethereum, which is close to like 40% of all of the Ethereum currently available on exchanges, which, says a lot by itself. And on top of that today, Tom, we saw some pretty interesting action out of a new IPO, bullish, ticker symbol BLSH. What is going on there?
Yeah, BLSH actually ended up falling down a little bit. They initially rose on the first couple 5-minute candles, but they did actually come out and do pretty well. We could see right here, there was a lot of great headlines, right? They IPO'd above their expected range. The stock opened at $90 on the NYSE, and the IPO price was $37. So, hey, I guess the people who got in at the IPO price were pretty happy. But nonetheless, bullish did end up pulling back today, and recently we've been seeing good cryptocurrency cryptocurrency IPOs. CRCL is another one. Circle, it IPO'd, and we can see that it ended up ripping to the upside over the past couple months. Now, it did pull back a little bit here in the short term, but since the initial IPO, it had that great run. So I'm definitely going to be watching BLSH and seeing if maybe it can start to get some hype into it, because these IPOs have been crazy, and even stocks that maybe weren't IPOs, but BMNR, for example, right? Whenever Tom Lee got on the board, we're seeing a lot of these stocks start to go crazy in the short term. So I think it's definitely good to look at, and BLSH will be one that we'll probably see a lot of hype over the next few days. So be ready for a lot of up and down action. We can see today, most of the opportunities were to the downside though.
Yeah, so needless to say, there are a lot of reasons why Ethereum and crypto in general is increasing. We listed a handful already in today's video, and of course, the Trump administration has been very friendly to crypto in general. So especially when we look at Ethereum, especially in a broader sense, and even with other cryptos, it's definitely important to keep them on your radar in a longer term sense. What I think most people are looking to capitalize off of is what they might do in the short term. Whether you're looking at a recent IPO like BLSH or some of these popular Ethereum ETFs like ETHE, ETHA, or if you're feeling ballsy, ETHU, which is a 2x leveraged ETF, which went insane today as it popped up by just under 10%. And when you zoom out on this one, you can see over the past few months it went from like $25 a share all the way up to $180. Basically, this is where a lot of the money's flowing right now. In a short-term sense, you can ride the uptrend for, of course, as long as it continues. No one knows exactly when it's going to end, but what's more important than anything else is that when the trend eventually does turn, just don't get caught holding the bag. Of course, there's a lot of money flowing into this, and you can capitalize off of it. But again, don't get too sucked up into the hype. Keep these tickers close on watch, and I'm very excited to see how this uptrend continues, not only in a short-term sense, Tom, but especially over these next few weeks, months, and even years.
For sure. And, whenever I talk about, I would say, the crypto market, I know that there's a little bit of risk there, right? I am a little bit worried here with ETH being at the all-time high, but I love the short-term uptrend. And if there's anything that has momentum right now, it is Ethereum. So it'll definitely be a fun one to watch for sure. But we also did see some positive comments today. So, Mike, I know everyone's talking about rate cuts in the short term. It's awesome to see the SPY running up to new all-time highs. Now, the intraday price action on SPY was kind of iffy today. It dipped down from open and then started coming back at the end of the day. I would probably rate it a 6 out of 10, but nonetheless, Bessent did come out and make some comments about possible rate cuts. He's actually saying that there's a very good chance at a 50 basis point rate cut at the September meeting. That would be awesome. And he's actually calling for rate cuts by like 150 to 175 basis points. But I thought the comments about a possible 50 basis point rate cut in September was pretty positive, right? And I know that we've been hearing a lot about that from the Trump admin, so it's not very surprising that he's calling for this, but the overall market's pricing it in too. We can see here the overall market actually, or the CME FedWatch tool, started to show a slight 6.2% chance at a 50 basis point cut. So I'm going to be watching this very closely over the next couple weeks as we get closer to September to see, hey, is the market going to start looking at a 50 basis point cut? Because that would be pretty insane.
Yeah, so we have 3 Fed meetings coming up, one in September, one in October, and one in December. And at each one of these meetings, the market is pricing in a 25 basis point rate cut. This is important because when the Fed cuts rates, it kind of simulates the economy, and that's exactly what traders want to see, which helps to partially explain why the market is increasing like it is. We saw the inflation data yesterday come in a way that a lot of people perceived positively. You can argue that that is irrational, but at the end of the day, the stock market is a game where you trade against others. So if you want to make money, you have to respect how other people are, perceiving the environment. Looking at the market right now, we're at all-time highs, Tom. What are the key levels you're seeing for tomorrow? And when you look at a SPY chart, what are some levels that stand out to you?
Looking at SPY over the past couple trading days, it's been on a pretty nice uptrend, right? Especially off of that CPI data yesterday. I will say the high of day yesterday ended up acting as a really good support today. This is right around $42.80 to $43. I guess we could call it $43 to make it easy, but I do like this support range. If we start to see the SPY break down under this tomorrow, I do think that there could end up being some selling pressure that comes into play as that breaks and as some momentum picks up. Personally, though, I like the overall uptrend, and I'm definitely going to be watching for a possible break of the high of day today around 646. And I think that there's going to be a lot of traders targeting $650 in the short term. Whenever we talk about psychological levels, I would say $100 levels and $50 levels, like let's say 600, 650, 700, those levels are usually pretty significant. So if the SPY does break that high, I would think 650 could be a pretty decent target. It would be a pretty good move to get up there. But then again, the market has been making some pretty nice moves lately, and it has been very resilient and has been kind of surprising. I know that there was a lot of downtrend recently and a lot of people started to get scared with CPI, but hey, the bullish momentum is here, and ride the wave until it dies off, right?
Yeah, and I will say, like you mentioned, yesterday's high did act as a strong support level for today, so I do think that's certainly worth paying attention to for tomorrow. But are there any other levels besides that in the event we do see more selling?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few other supports. If we zoom out a little bit on like an hourly SPY chart, I really like the 639 to 640 support. I know that the previous all-time high will probably be coming into play as well, which is right around 641.50. So watch that previous all-time high at 641.50, and I really like that 640 range, though. I would say if the SPY pulls back, it would be pretty tough for it to break back under there.
All right, sounds good. So we'll pay attention to those levels pretty closely. And, like you said, we're at all-time highs right now. The skies are mostly clear, and 650 is like the next major level coming up. So sounds good there. But another thing that's also interesting and pretty exciting is that while we're at all-time highs, we have a unique combination where we're also set to get some rate cuts, which is always good. So basically, as we can see from this data here, in the past, when the market was at all-time highs and got rate cuts, it brought some very interesting circumstances. So we'll start out in a broader sense first. Whenever this has happened in the past, the market was higher a year later 100% of the time. So certainly no complaints there. When we zoom in a little bit more, that's when things get a little bit shaky. 6 months is generally good, but I would say 3 months is like kind of like the sweet spot where, it's like a short-term sense. It's up 77% of the time. The returns are generally good. But when we look at a shorter term sense, Tom, for the next month, things change a little bit.
They really do. That's pretty surprising, actually. Whenever we see the Feds cut rates within 2% of an all-time high, 1 month later, the market's only green 50% of the time. That's pretty rough. And it kind of makes sense, right? If the market's at all-time highs, there might not be the best reaction, in the short term, right? There might be pullbacks, natural pullbacks that come into play. But I do think that this is interesting because I know a lot of traders out there, they think that rate cuts means that the market has to explode, right? And if we do see rate cuts, it's just important to look at this and say, okay, there has been a lot of periods in the past where we did see some negative selling pressure come in following that. But I will say, the one thing that I think that is positive is that we can see that in the short term, the readings since 2019 have generally been pretty decent.
Exactly. So that definitely is good. And, it just goes to show that we are in a situation right now that is generally bullish. But of course, and as always, there will be some times when we pull back. And that's not something to be afraid of, but rather be aware of so you can adapt to it and, continue to grow your portfolio. So sounds good there, Tom. And then looking at the market for tomorrow, it looks like we do have some economic events before open.
Yeah, PPI data set to release at 8:30 a.m., 1 hour before the market opens, and I'm not sure that it's going to have the best reaction. I don't think the market will react too much to the PPI data here, considering that we had the CPI data earlier in the week. But if it does, I would say stray away from the consensus of 0.2%, and we see it either come in a lot hotter or a lot lighter, then I think that we could end up seeing a decent reaction. But then again, nothing as important as CPI. On Friday, we do have retail sales and Michigan consumer sentiment as well, so keep those on the radar. But that's pretty much it for the economic lineup. And for the earnings lineup, there are some fun ones tomorrow, Mike. I know JD in pre-market, that's going to be a big China stock. And in after hours, some of these companies like TMC, the metals company, KULR, some pretty good growth stocks reporting here.
Sounds good. All right, well, let's get right into the fun stuff then, which are some setups and predictions. And with my first one, I'm looking at everyone's favorite company recently, American Eagle Outfitters, ticker symbol AEO. This stock did very well today as it popped up by 8%. Back on July 25th, there was a $616,000 big money play with this one. This trade is up over 20% right now, which is, certainly some good returns, but it's not up like, 400% to the point where it's, maybe a little bit too late. And what I really like here is, of course, there's a big money play, which is always nice. There's a real catalyst driving this move, but we are also seeing a fresh new breakout right past that like $13.40 area, which is great. And there's also good momentum too, as the stock is up 8%. The general market is pretty euphoric, and this big money trade is already in the money, and it has some time to it as it expires on November 21st of 2025, but it doesn't have let's say 2 years worth of time where it gets to the point where it's just a little bit too far out there. So for all of these reasons, I definitely like this setup, and it's definitely on my bullish radar. The more pressure this stock can put on recent highs, the better the setup becomes, and I'm very excited to see how it does.
Yeah, American Eagle has been in the headlines a lot recently, whether you love them or you hate them. They're up 7.8% today, and they are moving very well. This is one of my favorite stocks in the short term too, Mike, so I'll be watching it for sure. And another one of my favorite stocks in the short term is Tilray. Tilray and the marijuana stocks continued to blast off today, up 31.5%. That is quite the move. It's well over $1 now after closing underneath $1 yesterday. And other MJ stocks are doing well also. If we go look at MSOS, which is a good U.S. cannabis ETF, or even MJ, or even others like ACB, for example, they are explosive. PLNH did slow down a little bit today. I'll mention that one because we've been talking about that one a little bit as well. But going back to Tilray, it had that great move today. There's a lot of momentum, so I'm really keeping these on the radar. And if we start to see tomorrow an open, kind of like we saw today out of the first 30 minutes or so, I'll definitely be looking for a good continuation. I'm not saying that Tilray is going to go up 30% tomorrow, but if we do get some good momentum, I think that riding this wave could be a good way to go in the short term, whether it's with Tilray or any of the cannabis stocks in the short term.
Yeah, 31% day is nothing to ignore, and this stock has been doing very well over the past few months, which is great to see, and it's also rare for Tilray because it has definitely been struggling quite a bit over the past few years, and it's really nice to see it not only uptrending but also uptrending in a meaningful way, because as we know and as we can quite literally see just from these past few trading days, when it moves, it really moves. So definitely keep it close on watch. Another ticker that is definitely on my radar is ticker symbol CNC. This has been one of the hardest hit companies over the past year. It's in the healthcare industry, and it has been a rough July for this company, to say it politely. And it's starting to hold this $25 support in a great way, and it also had a recent big money play, which is nice to see. It is down, but either way, it is a longer term trade, and it definitely helps add to the bull thesis. I really like the risk reward here. Right now, the stock has been, beaten down so badly. It's still at $27 a share. We have huge support at $25. I can certainly see it as a justifiable trade, giving it around $2.50 to the downside, holding that $25 support. If you want to be a little bit more risk averse, you can always, cut that $2.50 risk to, $1.50, maybe even lower, depending on how you want to set the trade up. And that's in the worst case scenario, but in the best case scenario, I wouldn't be surprised to see the stock at over $30 a share in the short term, maybe in a very optimistic sense, maybe closer to 34, 35, 36, depending on how this momentum develops. But either way, I think it makes for a great risk reward, and this isn't necessarily a trade specifically for tomorrow. It's more of a trade for the next few weeks.
I've even been seeing members of Congress buying up CNC. That's how much hype or how much eyes have been on it, right? So I'll definitely be watching it, Mike. $58 million big money trade. That's no joke. Like you said, it is down, but I think a lot of traders are going to be watching it to come up off this dip. So I like it. With my next setup, I'm looking at Advanced Money Destroyer, or as I should say, Advanced Money Dispenser now, up 5.4% today. Had a really nice move today, and it is straddling a key resistance around 186 to 187. Going over to the Bookmap, we can see that there's a lot of sell walls overhead, but if we do break out, maybe targeting 190 plus could be a good way to go. There is a good sell wall around that 190 point, so if we do break the high of day today, you can maybe trade a couple point move up to that 190 mark and maybe watch to see if we can end up breaking the sell wall or not. But shout out to Bookmap for the X-ray vision here. You know, whenever I'm looking at AMD, it's a stock that a lot of people are looking at, and it's a stock that isn't quite at all-time highs, but I wanted to show the significance of this level here because it is bounced and rejected off of this multiple times in the past. So if we are able to get a true breakout past here, I think it could go on a much better run.
Yeah, and while it's not at all-time highs yet, I do think it deserves a name change, especially after this uptrend over these past few months to Advanced Money Dispenser, especially with today's action. So that's great to see. And yeah, AMD has been a super strong stock over the past few months. So great to see there. And besides that, Tom, how about we jump into today's momentum plays? And with the first one, we have AI, ticker symbol AI, to the upside.
That was funny, right? 10% move by them today. That was awesome. If they can break out above $18.80, just above the high of day, then watch for a continuation.
All right, with the next one, we have Tempest, ticker symbol TEM, also to the upside.
Nancy Pelosi's happy. Tempest is moving up again. If it can break 72, just above its high of day, then watch it up as well.
And then with the last one, we have AppLovin, ticker symbol APP, to the downside.
Yeah, AppLovin, if they can break under 440, a pretty nice whole dollar level there, then watch them down. They were down 4.4% today.
All right, so keep a close eye on these three tickers for potential continuations tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels listed. While these stocks all have momentum, how you trade is much more important than what you trade. Your main objective is to make your winning trades outweigh your losing ones. Some trades are going to lose, and that is just the reality of the stock market. To help make it easier for your winning trades to outweigh your losing ones, the best thing to do is to keep your losing trades small. You can use stop losses, you can use smart dynamic position sizing, and many other things, but just keep this in mind. Trade smart, trade disciplined, and definitely check out the Key Lessons channel in the StockedUp Discord for a bunch of great free information on how to trade smarter. So definitely check that out. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $1 million big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol GTLB. And today, the trader here bought the 40 strike call options that expire pretty soon on September 26th of 2025. These options are already in the money. GTLB has been lagging a little bit over the past few years. It's holding a crucial support at $40 and is in the process of bouncing off of it. It's definitely an exciting setup. I like how, since it's at support right now, you can risk a relatively small amount to make a a pretty decent amount. Let's say in the worst case scenario where the stock breaks through this lower support, maybe you cut at $38 a share, maybe $39. You can certainly adjust it to your preferences. And in the event that this support holds and the stock starts to uptrend, I really would not be surprised to see the stock get to above $50. And, especially if the general market euphoria continues, even much higher. So it's definitely exciting to see. I also like how the expiration is, somewhat soon, given it is at the end of September, which is a short-term expiration. It's not like too short where the theta is going to be absolutely insane, but it's not like too long of an expiration either where, the trader might be looking at this for multiple months. So I think it's like in the perfect sweet spot, and it's definitely a ticker I'll be excited to watch.
Yeah, over the next few weeks, if it continues to hold the support and bounces up, I like that risk reward ratio that we worked out there. That actually looks very solid, and I would think it could get above $50 if it does end up holding. If we go to GTLB and we just look at some of the times in which it has bounced around this area in the past, we have seen some insane runs. Now, of course, each one hasn't been like right off of 38 or right off of 40. There's a pretty big support range here, but some of these moves higher have been insane. Like one of these times, GTLB bounced off $40, ran up 93% within just a few months. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen again, but it just goes to show that this stock can have some pretty insane movement, and you can take advantage of those overall uptrends there. So I think that that's what the big money traders doing here in the ultra short term is they're looking for a good support bounce and a good directional shift, right? And I love it with the risk reward ratio there, Mike. It's one of the better setups that we've seen in a little while, and there's been some fire big money trades lately too.
Big time. So sounds good there. And I definitely want to take this moment to pause quickly and give a giant shout out to Tom for holding down the fort while I was gone. I was on vacation and I'm super happy to be back. So shout out to you, Tom. And if you guys are new to the channel, definitely consider subscribing so you can get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day we showcase multi-million-dollar big money trades, the most important SPY levels, analysis, important news to know about, and so much more. It takes us hours to make these videos, and we make new videos for every day the market's open. When you subscribe, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often. And Tom, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Nick, in the StockedUp Discord, who had some nice profits today with ticker symbol BLSH. The new IPO, he made just under $400, which is great to see. Huge shout out to you, Nick. Keep up the great work going forward. And if you guys are into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to get in on the StockedUp trading floor. Today, our Surge bot really crushed it with multiple tickers, but especially Chewy. The Chewy call options popped up by 475%. The PSKY call options popped up by 348%. The coin call options popped up by 124%. The VRT put options popped up by 120%. The list goes on, and of course, there were some duds sprinkled in as well. You get full access to our army of trading bots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long, join our weekly live events, which is tonight, by the way, access the daily big money trades, and so much more. Definitely check it out, and if you do sign up, definitely make sure to use coupon code BIGMONEY to get locked in at the lowest price possible. But either way, we're set for a very exciting day in the market tomorrow. We're at all-time highs. Life is good. Ethereum's going crazy, and don't forget that we do have that PPI data release 1 hour before market open. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.